Okay, today is January 28th, 2018, and right now at 9 p.m. we have a temperature of 70 degrees in the foothills of Los Angeles. The relative humidity is still 18%. That's down from 19% humidity all day long. All afternoon it was 19%. The dew point is 26 degrees, and the barometer is at 30.11 inches. And today we had clear skies, except for the western and southwestern horizons, where we saw very, very heavy, actually massive chemtrail spraying as this moisture field here moves right towards California. We have basically a developing hurricane right down here. This is a low pressure system which has been hit by a satellite transmitter today. We'll show the detail on that. This area was superheated. We can see a blast pattern, and that was done to prevent this area from forming into a tropical cyclone right down here near the Hawaiian Islands. This has the attention of a transmitter. We can go ahead and take a look at that here right now in the Central Pacific water vapor loop. We see this area right here was targeted, and it's now rebuilding. We can see a blast pattern right here, that little area. And also over here on the right side, we can see the same thing. Now, as we zoom in to the, we'll take a look at the a close-up of Hawaii here in a sec. Here's the rainbow map. And right about here, we can see some disruption in the flow pattern as this moisture moves right over the Hawaiian Islands. Now we can see that this one area right here is being superheated. We'll take a look at that right now on the right here. This is the Central Pacific Hawaii map, and we can see that all of this moisture moving right over the Hawaiian Islands is disrupted right about here, and we can see a blast pattern moving to the west right there towards the beginning of the loop. Let's go ahead and stop this and take a look. We can see how everything is flowing fine once it passes Hawaii. Right here, as this northbound flow passes over the islands, we see some peculiar activity. Okay, so this area here is being targeted by a transmitter, and that is disrupting the convective process and basically breaking up the cloud and thunderstorm activity as it moves over the over those islands. So we see that transmitter activity right here. This is a satellite-based transmitter, which is causing that area to be superheated. Now this is a separate event than the other one over here, taken earlier today. We can see that here's the area right here trying to spin counterclockwise. There was a huge area of pink and some blue earlier today, right in this area, and that has been targeted. And we can see that it is rebuilding. And notice this tremendous amount of moisture moving right towards Washington State and Oregon and into Canada. But we have a blockade right here. Let's take a look at the Western U.S. map. We can see that everything is just ending right here. We have a high pressure, wall of high pressure right here. It's actually looks sort of like a right angle right there. We had some windy conditions in some of the foothill communities all day long and overnight. And that is the high pressure that's been installed right in this area, the southwest, and over California to block this tremendous flow pattern. Look at this, moving right into California, trying to. And nothing is getting past right about here. Everything is just stopping. So we have stationary high pressure right here in the face of a tremendous, many thousands of miles here of moisture moving right towards the United States. So essentially we have a developing hurricane that was squashed out, targeted by a satellite microwave or laser transmitter. The residual moisture is making its way towards the U.S. We have a blockade here. So there's no rain anywhere in California. If we take a look at the Doppler map right now, we can see that Oregon and California and the entire Southwest, not a drop of rain showing up on that Doppler map. Only up in the very northwest corner of Washington State, Vancouver Island in Canada, we're seeing a little bit of rain, some heavy rain actually, right there in, over the tip of Vancouver Island. So let's go ahead and look at that map again. So we know that Northern California and Central California are being sprayed very heavily with chemtrail aerosols, the chemical desiccant haze, which sponges up atmospheric water vapor. We know that because the humidity drops after those chemtrails are sprayed. We have to rely on our weather instruments to know what's going on, and that's what we're doing. We can't assume what's happening. Okay, now here is the rainbow loop. We see this is a storm right here. I think this is about a 963 millibar storm. Let's go ahead and look at the surface analysis map right here, and we can see that storm, which is moving to the northeast right here. This is that storm, which has a right angle on it, 966 millibar. Also, this area right near the Hawaiian Islands, which there's a low pressure area shown here with a trough and another trough right down here. This is the area that was superheated. This was actually a developing hurricane, low pressure, and that would have developed into a very large storm, and that's why it was those weather controllers have hit that. This storm was not listed on the National Hurricane Center map for the Central Pacific. So that would have spun up into a hurricane. We've seen hurricanes in January before. They're not reported on the news for reasons, obvious reasons, because they need to be squashed out without a whole lot of news coverage. Okay, so we have the map here. We can see high pressure over the southwest, blocking high pressure. We've got plenty of opportunity from the tropics for rain. That's all being blockaded and re-steered. We can see that here again in the map. Let's look at the western U.S. water vapor loop, and we can see all the evaporation occurring right here. And like I said, on the western horizon today we saw a lot of very, very heavy spraying, chemtrail spraying. But the mainland was fairly clear because of the winds generated by that high pressure area right here. You can see the outline of that semicircular area of high pressure. So we know that the Northern California people and Central California people are getting a lot of chemtrail spraying. Today we saw a lot of jets over Southern California leaving the dissipating short trails. So those are the chemical, that's a slightly different mixture. And tomorrow we'll have to see what happens. But as this pattern continues, we should expect to see chemtrails either on the horizon if this high pressure continues to be installed in place. This is very odd. Of course, we know why the television, whether the stooges on television do not show us these satellite maps, because they would tip off a lot of information, and people would start to ask a lot of questions. Notice the right angle here. There's a secondary right angle on this storm. Let's go back to the big map again. And right here, this frontal system has been completely separated. Right here, we can see high pressure spinning that away from the vortex. So earlier today, we had a right angle on this system right here, and that is now peeling away. The result of that right angle is peeling this large, the main portion of this frontal system is pulled away. But we still have moisture wrapping around into that vortex. So what we're seeing here is a secondary attempt. We can see a right angle right there. And that will separate this moisture field right here, this little frontal system redeveloping from getting into that vortex. And that's what we're seeing. Here we can see the separation right there. So this is how they do that. So this will end up being a dry upper level low, as we sometimes hear from the puppets reporting the weather on TV, mainstream television. So the idea, the goal by installing these right angle areas of high pressure is to isolate the center, the low pressure center. Sometimes call it the core of the storm, which is right there. And so the idea, the goal is to not allow any moisture to get into that low pressure system by maintaining high pressure on top of that low. And that's why the centers of these lows look so disorganized and so kind of a messy looking center there. That should be a perfect spiral, as I pointed out before. Right here we have another developing storm that has a transmitter on it. And we have all this moisture moving in and no rain in California. Take a look here at the SSEC water vapor loop, and we can see this developing hurricane right down here being blown apart right there. And it just disappears. You see that? And then right here it's rebuilding, and that's what we're seeing currently on the map. So watch here. We can see that area is superheated right there. This is a 48 image loop, which means we're looking at a 12-hour sequence right now. Get a little better contrast here if I get some white into this area into the picture. Okay, so we're looking right here. That area was superheated right there. All right, now let's scroll up, and we can see that storm system right there with a right angle on it. There's the first right angle, and here is the second right angle right there. You can see the frontal system peeling away. They've pulled the main portion of water vapor away, and now they're going to do the same thing, phase 2 right here. All right, now here's the jet stream map. Of course, everything is being redirected. This high pressure is re-steering the jet stream up into Canada. And then here we have the new goes east map. Now, I have some information here. The goes east has been replaced. The goes 13 has been replaced with goes 16. That's the latest satellite that has been launched and is now operational. And we're seeing a very low contrast map here that is by design, I believe. I have been looking at some of these maps. The color is very, all the colors are, the infrared map is not really any good. It's a very low contrast. The colors are not brilliant like we see in the water vapor map. And also, more bad news, the GOES West satellite is going to be replaced later this year. We have the GOES S, which is going to replace GOES 15. And that satellite, GOES S, will be launched in March, a couple of months from now, month and a half. And that will become operational later this year. So we're going to lose both the GOES East and West. We've already lost GOES East. GOES West will be lost later in this year. So that's the report, and we can see the low contrast here. We're not going to be able to see a lot of detail in these new satellite images. This rainbow loop is no longer. We're not going to see that, so we may have to do something else. In the meantime, I'll leave it right here and do another update later. That's it.